Yep. Hello. I'm here with Gavin. I assume most of you saw him outside, and we are both here with Willow, one of our newest projects. So the talk today is because we have a lot of our own conferences, and we only seem to invite our existing customers. We do a lot of work to enable developers to use Watson, and I don't think anyone actually knows. So there's going to be some history. Where were we, where we are, and where I think we're going. So most people probably know Watson won Jeopardy. This AI supercomputer beat 2 grand champions in Jeopardy. What is Watson? When we won Jeopardy, Watson was 10 racks of power servers. It was the size of like a small bedroom. Extremely loud. They couldn't even have it in the same room as the competition. It had to be kept separately. It was too hot. It was too loud. No one wanted to be around it. We actually have a pretty similar setup in the lab. So how did it win? It actually crushed the competition. If you've seen Ken Jennings talk, he actually says because Watson was faster, not because it knew answers he didn't. But it still won by about 50 grand. So in order to win, it took about 200 million pages of just general knowledge. There was no internet connection allowed. This is equivalent to the Library of Congress. As training, it took 20 researchers 3 years. This is obviously not repeatable, but that's how you get a super genius, right? Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter were not born overnight either. So as part of the training, it took those 200 million pages of information, 3 years of training, at least 100 games against past competitors just to get into prime time, and we still weren't sure we were going to win. Clearly, it worked out pretty well. So once we won, we said, okay, how do we actually make money off of this? It all started just over dinner. Someone said, hey, I think we can win Jeopardy. Let's go for it. That takes a lot of money, and it really got us nothing. So the first thing was we had to make it small. We took Watson from a room of servers to the size of a bread box, just one server. Next, we brought Watson up onto the cloud. Now people can access it from anywhere. No matter how much processing power they need, they can use as much as they require. From going from Jeopardy, which is just a bunch of general knowledge questions, no customer really wants that as their data set, right? What's the use of that when I can Google it, I can go on Wikipedia and get more information? Also, speaking like I'm on Jeopardy is not very helpful. So the first thing we started with was healthcare and insurance. I'm not sure whose logo this is. Thank you, Google, for finding random logos for me. So those were the 2 industries we wanted to focus on. We chose those because they're hard. We knew most competitors couldn't handle those things. There's a lot of compliance. There's a lot of security. It's hard even to get in front of a CEO. IBM has most of those connections, so we took it and ran with it. Next, we said, okay, we've made some money. It took us a lot to get here. It took us a lot of money and effort to train on those 2 industries. We can't do this ourselves. How can we enable other people to do it? So we had to take that same scale and scale it out. I know I'm very creative with my images. So we have a platform called Bluemix. If you go to bluemix.net, you can see it yourself. You can sign up for free for 30 days. After that, most of the services have a free version anyways. There's about 30 services on here. I'll go into some of them in a little bit. But this was where we put Watson, right? So there's already all kinds of containers. There's storage. There's mobile app services. Now there's Watson. The next thing was those 20 researchers who took 3 years had tools that were right for them. I don't know about any of you, but I don't have a PhD in data science. I don't have a PhD in anything. So we need to make it simple for someone to use. How can we enable normal people, business users typically, SMEs, to train an instance of Watson on their specific content? IBM can't do all the training. PhDs can't do all the training. We need to enable normal, everyday people. So that was the next step. The last part was we need to reach a wider audience. So we added more and more domains. Some of these things are ours, some are just random cartoons I found. So we were at the US Open with the robots. Cognitive cooking with Chef Watson is another one. So Watson ingested all of the recipes of bonappetit.com and also a manual of food science. I didn't even know that existed. And is starting to create his own recipes. So chocolate burritos and just random combinations that actually scientifically will taste good. I know he's been at South by Southwest before, so that you can try Chef Watson there. I think this year they might have a beer tent or some kind of mixed drink event. Again, on Bluemix, we have all of these services. Somehow this adds up to 30 APIs. We can make up a different number every day to make it sound like we have more. We recently acquired Alchemy, which has about 10 to 15 APIs itself. So the main ones here natural language classifier is actually what powers the new Watson Conversation service. That's what I'm really here to talk about. And all of the rest are easy to combine to create a novel app. If you want to create a vision-based conversational app, you can upload an image and you can talk about that image. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can connect them in any way you want. The blue are all the Watson services. Orange is kind of pre-created content or kind of more templates to use. The light blue is more of the technical side, and the green are our partners. So just to give a shout out to all of them, Wayblazer does some things with travel, GoMoment does some things with hotels, and SoftBank is helping us with the robots and really anything Japanese. So this is the path to market. There's a lot of words here, and I don't really care about any of it. There were 3 versions of really the Watson that we were selling, which was Watson Engagement Advisor. Each one was hard to use, hard to train, took a lot of data. Version 1 was not conversational. Version 2, we added conversational and chit chat, so hello, how are you? Pretty important to any kind of engaging application. Why this is important is this QA pipeline was some of the best information retrieval that the market has seen. So it's always had some of the smartest tools on the market, but we've also had the hardest to use tools on the market. So each of these versions gets considerably simpler. You can read about why. It's not too important, because what is important is the new Watson Conversation service. This is really our version of building a chatbot. This is the product that I'm on the offering management team for, as well as Gavin. And here are just some screenshots of how it works. We do follow the methodology of intents, entities, plus context to track state and dialogue. However, we feel that this is now one of the easiest ways to build something. Training and intent, you simply give it a class name. You can see that as the bold words. 5, maybe 20 examples, and you have a very powerful classifier. Again, we've always had some of the better technology. It was always harder to use. So we're really working on simplifying things for developers to quickly train something. Next, identifying your entities. Currently, this is just a hard list, right? Just character matching. We have other services on Bluemix, Alchemy, Language for One, that can do kind of a ton of out-of-the-box entity extraction. So if you need cities, you need names of people, you need foods, really whatever kind of topic you have, Alchemy probably has something. When it doesn't have what you need, say you're McDonald's and you want to identify when someone says McNugget, I'm sure Alchemy doesn't know what a McNugget is. Type it in here, and now you know. We're working on implementing a cheaper way to do machine learning-based entity extraction. So we currently have a service called Watson Knowledge Studio. You really just go through and highlight the keywords. Once you highlight them, it builds the model automatically, so you don't have to know anything about annotation or data science. And you'll have an entity extraction engine fit for you. However, it's very expensive, so for most developers, it's not a suitable option. So we are working on implementing it in our service to make it much easier and cheaper. The next part is just optional. So context is something that we see a lot in the enterprise space. Some of the smaller bots don't really require a lot of context. You're not pulling info from a database. You're not making changes to people's addresses in back-end systems. In every enterprise scenario, we see this. And this is really what makes it powerful. It lets you take the entire process end to end and house it inside of Watson. So you can really control it from the application to inject any context you want. You already know about your users, just let Watson know. Finally is the dialogue builder. We feel it's pretty simple. You fill in 2 pieces of a box, what the user might say, which intents and entities they say, and how to respond. There's also an advanced view where you can edit the response in JSON, so you can put forms, you can put checkboxes, you can put calendars, and we are releasing assets that can really just copy and paste into your application to do this for you. Obviously, this grows increasingly complex the more you want to do. These boxes can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm sure like Hello Barbie said, 8,000 lines of dialogue, you don't even want to look at it in this view. So we're also working on new views to view larger projects at scale, and we're also releasing another tool called Watson Virtual Agent. So Watson Virtual Agent is really simpler tooling on top of Watson Conversation. It's tooling on top of tooling, literally. So what this does is all our pre-created intents and entities, you click one and you just edit the response. So if I'm an enterprise or I'm selling to an enterprise, I can easily use this, repeat it, and just scale it very, very quickly. I don't have to do any training. All I do is tell Watson what to say when. The the last piece of this puzzle is really how do you get it to market, right? You've trained your Watson, how do you get it out there? So because it's just a REST-based API, you can put it in any channel you want. Whether that's mobile, we have SDKs and mobile applications for you to take. We have UIs and sample applications for you to play with. This is actually the sample for the conversation service, so go feel free to check it out on Bluemix. We're going to be using Botkit. Thank you, Botkit, for having us, to deploy to Facebook, to deploy to Slack. These are just live instances of the bots that we've created. And lastly is the robots. Right, that one's the most fun. I don't really know the use for it just yet, except that I like to talk to it and it's more fun to interact with it. So we're developing a robot SDK to easily train the robot to use your Watson conversation service. You simply swap your workspace ID in or out. Easier ways to point the robot which directions to move. So anybody who didn't hear the speech outside, Aldebaran is a company. They build the actual robots. They have a tooling suite. It's very hard to use. It's very technical. So we're going to use Watson to create all kinds of shortcuts to allow you just say simply point right, and the robot then knows what pointing right means. We'll do all the hard work for you. That was much faster than I anticipated. We were hoping to do the robot on stage. So if there's any questions, let me know.
Let's do it for questions. And hand claps. Anyone have anything they want to say? Oh, you guys are quiet. Well, let's give it up to him one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please go check out Bluemix, check out our developer tools. They're all very cheap now. That's the main thing I hear why people don't want to use it.
I hope you just heard that. Say that one more time.
The developer tools on Bluemix have gotten much cheaper. We just cut the price in half on conversation. There's a free version, and it's also 0.02 cents per API call for any production level applications.
Awesome. Thank you again. Let's just clap to wake ourselves up. Come on, guys. Thank you.